Twinklish kids, it's twinkle time. In a vast forest, a wise old bird watched over the trees and animals. This is the story of how wisdom and foresight can prevent disaster. One day, a group of birds found a large pile of grain under a tree. Excited by the feast, they began eating greedily. The wise old bird, perched nearby, warned them, "This grain is a trap. Leave it alone and find food elsewhere." But the birds ignored the warning, too tempted by the easy meal. Suddenly, a net dropped from above, trapping the birds. They chirped in panic, realizing too late that they should have listened to the wise old bird. The hunter approached, pleased with his catch. The wise old bird, watching from a distance, sighed and flew away, knowing that wisdom had been ignored. The moral of the story is that wisdom and foresight are invaluable. Listening to wise advice can save you from potential dangers. By a serene pond, a foolish crane lived alongside a cunning mongoose. This is the story of how greed and jealousy can lead to one's downfall. The crane was envious of the mongoose, who was praised for his intelligence. Seeking to prove his worth, the crane decided to catch a fish bigger than any the mongoose had ever seen. One day, the crane spotted a large fish. He quickly caught it and brought it to the shore, proud of his catch. But the mongoose, seeing the crane's success, decided to teach him a lesson. The mongoose approached the crane and said, "What a magnificent fish! But have you ever tried the fruits of the forest? They are even more delicious." The foolish crane, eager to outdo the mongoose, left the fish and flew to the forest in search of fruits. While he was away, the mongoose ate the fish and left the bones behind. When the crane returned, he found nothing but bones. Realizing he had been tricked, the crane felt ashamed of his greed and jealousy. The moral of the story is that envy and greed can lead to one's own downfall. It's important to be content with what you have and not be swayed by jealousy. In a dry and barren land, a thirsty crow searched desperately for water. This is the story of how ingenuity and patience can solve even the toughest problems. One hot summer's day, the crow came across a pitcher with a little water at the bottom. Despite his best efforts, he couldn't reach the water with his beak. Tired but determined, the crow thought for a moment. He then began picking up small pebbles and dropping them into the pitcher, one by one. Slowly, the water level rose, until it was high enough for the crow to drink. The crow drank deeply, quenching his thirst. Satisfied and proud of his clever solution, he flew away, leaving the pitcher behind. The moral of the story is that necessity is the mother of invention. With creativity and persistence, even the most difficult problems can be solved. In a quiet vineyard, a hungry fox roamed, searching for something to eat. This is the story of how the fox dealt with his unfulfilled desire. One hot summer's day, the fox saw a bunch of ripe, juicy grapes hanging from a vine. His mouth watered at the sight. Determined to have them, he leaped high into the air, trying to reach the grapes. Again and again, he jumped, but the grapes were just out of his reach. Exhausted and frustrated, the fox finally gave up. He walked away, muttering to himself, "Those grapes are probably sour anyway." Though he tried to console himself, the fox's stomach grumbled, and he continued his search for food elsewhere. The moral of the story is that it's easy to despise what you cannot have. Rather than admitting defeat, people often rationalize their failures by pretending they didn't want the prize in the first place. In a peaceful forest, a rabbit and a tortoise lived as neighbors. This is a story about how slow and steady can indeed win the race. The rabbit, known for his speed, often boasted about how fast he could run. The tortoise, tired of the rabbit's arrogance, decided to challenge him to a race. "You challenge me?" laughed the rabbit. "This will be a piece of cake." The race began. The rabbit dashed off, leaving the tortoise far behind. Confident of his victory, the rabbit decided to take a nap halfway through the race. Meanwhile, the tortoise kept moving, slow and steady, never stopping or giving up. Hours passed, and the rabbit woke up, realizing that the tortoise was nearing the finish line. He ran as fast as he could, but it was too late. The tortoise had already crossed the finish line. The rabbit was shocked, and the forest animals cheered for the tortoise. The tortoise smiled and said, "Slow and steady wins the race." The moral of the story is that perseverance and determination can overcome even the greatest challenges. It's not always the fastest who win, but those who keep moving forward. Like, share, subscribe, and follow for more. Enjoy!